Now, if you follow me on Goodreads, you probably expected this video to happen. Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be bringing you my spoiler-free review of A Million Junes by Emily Henry. Now, A Million Junes is a YA contemporary / magical realism story that follows our main character, Jack O'Donnell, also known as June, and kind of her discovering love for the first time. But the thing is that the person that she ends up kind of falling in love with is part of a rivaling family, the Ingerts. So this kind of has these tones, which it was first pitched to me as a kind of YA retelling of Romeo and Juliet. So you can definitely see the inspiration with Romeo and Juliet, with having these two rivaling families and these two main characters kind of eventually falling for each other, not being able to be together because of the problems and the situations that their families have against each other. And then it's definitely heavily dosed with some magical realism in there. There's a lot of magical realism elements in there to the point where it kind of at some point feels like fantasy, but it still very much reads like a contemporary story. And that's just the basic synopsis, just these two main characters kind of falling in love and not being able to be together because of their two rivaling families. And that's what you kind of get going into it and what you kind of know going into it, because it's what it's pitched as. But this book is just so much more than just your typical YA love story. The love story is definitely, I feel, like a smaller portion within this book with everything else that's going on. There are definitely larger themes in here about a father and his love for his daughter, and that's predominantly what you're going to get in this book. If you're going into this book expecting it to be kind of a fluffy YA contemporary like love story between these two characters, it's definitely not what it is. You're going to find more of that relationship between a father and a daughter and the love a father has for a daughter, and that's mainly what dominates this book, is just that relationship there, which I absolutely ended up loving because it was not what I was expecting. I don't tend to gravitate toward YA contemporary love stories, but this, like I said, was pitched as a Romeo and Juliet retelling with elements of 100 Years of Solitude. So if you guys know me, you know that 100 Years of Solitude is one of my favorite books of all time. So that's what ended up me wanting to pick up this book, because of those elements of 100 Years of Solitude. So I can see that, because you definitely have this like underlining like family saga story also going on, because the reason why these two families don't get along is because they believe their families are cursed, and whenever one person from one family kind of gets near somebody from the other family, bad things starts to happen, people start to die, like, so they believe they're cursed, and you have kind of that back and forth between the two that's been going on through different generations. So you eventually start going back and getting things from their backstory with their families and how everything began, how the curse began, why they believe they're cursed. So you definitely get a lot of that kind of family backstory, family saga type storyline that's also going through this book, and it was just absolutely beautifully done. That's where kind of the magical realism elements also fall in, because June lives in this kind of what the town considers to be a haunted house, where they have these ghosts kind of roaming around the house, and these ghosts eventually begin to show her images of the past and kind of memories of the past that pertain to her family and pertain to all of the Jacks that came before her, because she is Jack the Fourth. So she has 3 other Jacks that came before her, and kind of telling their story and their backstories as to how they lived their lives, how they went about with this curse, where it all began, and the origin story of this family curse and this rivalry between these two families. And I feel those two themes of family saga and the love between a father and a daughter are definitely more dominant than the actual love story between the two characters, and I absolutely love that about it, because like I said, I don't really enjoy a lot of fluffy YA contemporaries, or at least I don't gravitate toward them. So I loved that this had so many more elements that wasn't just a love story. I think that's why I ended up loving it so much, on top of having such amazingly beautiful writing. Like, guys, this book is just so beautifully written. I loved Emily Henry's writing style. I didn't read her previous book, The Love That Split the World, but immediately after finishing this one, I went online and ordered a copy, and I haven't heard the greatest things about that other book, but if it's written in a similar way this one was, I definitely want to check it out for myself. But I am going into that one with lowered expectations, because I haven't heard the greatest things, but this one was absolutely amazing. I loved all of the different elements that were going on within this one. June's relationship with like everyone around her. There's a great female friendship within this one that I absolutely love because I feel like it was just good and empowering and healthy. There was no like jealousy or rivalry or misunderstandings or anything really going on between her and her best friend, and I absolutely loved that. They encouraged each other, they loved each other, they supported each other in a lot of different ways, and I loved that about it. June has a creative writing teacher at school who I think is just awesome because she's a great, wonderful teacher who believes in her, who supports her, who encourages her to continue on with her writing and everything, and I absolutely love that element also. And then June has a great family. Like, she has a great mother and a great stepfather, because I don't think I mentioned this earlier. Her biological father is actually dead, died 10 years prior to this book. She's kind of, you know, going back and reliving memories of her father. But now she currently has her mother and her stepfather, who I just think are great. Her two little brothers also, I think, are just very, like, funny. They're not really there or really great predominant characters, but I still think that they're really well written. And I loved her and her relationship with her mother and her stepfather, because usually when you have stepfathers in, like, stories like this, they don't really have good relationships between the main characters and everything, but I think June's stepfather had a great relationship with her and loved her just as if she were his own child, and I just absolutely loved that dynamic that they had between the families. Like, there are so many things that this book does right with the family dynamic, with the friendships, with the love story, with the writing. It's just, I adored this book from beginning to end. Every single page, I feel, was just something that I was enjoying, something that was going on that I was absolutely loving. And even the magical realism elements in there, I went in knowing that there were magical realism elements in there, so I feel like that helped me with not feeling confused, because she was basically like traveling through time within like these memories of her family and everything of the past. So I really enjoyed the way that they were done, the way that they were written. There were scenes in here that were just like amazing, like beautiful, beautifully written, and I absolutely ended up loving this story. Like I said, it's not, YA contemporary isn't something that I tend to gravitate to, but when I do read YA contemporary, like I've mentioned this in other videos before, I tend to read YA contemporary that deals with other themes and not just a romance, and I loved that this had so many amazing themes. It's set in like a small town, which I absolutely loved. I loved that setting. I loved the people. I loved this one. I love this one. There's a small character in here that's also LGBTQ who isn't there for a long time, so he doesn't really have a major part in there, but I also really enjoyed him and kind of everything that was going on with him, and I really enjoyed this book from beginning to end. If you guys read Emily Henry's first book, Love That Split the World, and didn't really enjoy it, because like I said, I've heard really mixed things. I haven't heard the greatest reviews of that one. I would still give A Million Junes a chance, because I adored this book. And this is, like I said, coming from somebody who doesn't really read a lot of YA contemporary. So if this feels repetitive, if the story in here feels like very tropey or the same as a lot of other stories, I don't know, because like I said, I don't really read a lot of contemporary, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. So everything in here for me was unique and different and new and wonderful. So I feel like a lot of people who don't really read this type of story they're going to really enjoy it like I did, because yes, like I said, I absolutely love this book. This ended up being one of my favorite books of the year, probably my favorite book I've read this year so far. I thought, like I said, beautifully written. I adored this book and highly recommend it. So yeah, guys, that is it for my review slash like insane gush about A Million Junes by Emily Henry. Comment down below, let me know if you guys have read A Million Junes, if you guys are interested in reading A Million Junes at all, because like I said, I highly recommend this one. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.